about a week into February. I've seen more boxes of candy than I think I care to see. Personally, I'm waiting for robin's eggs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Those.
those. Oh, someone else who loves them as much as I do.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get on to this episode so we
Yeah.
can get on to Easter candy.
To the robin's eggs, yeah.
To the robin's eggs, that's
Yep.
right. All right, here we go. Well, hello, Levi.
Hello, Virginia. We're back again for
We
Minisode.
Yes, this is our first little Minisode bonus episode, if you want to call it that. Yeah. So by the time this airs, it will be Sunday. We're recording a little early this week. That's okay. No worries.
That's fine. But this will air on Valentine's Day Eve.
Correct. And then don't forget on Monday.
Yes, 7 p.m.
It's on Facebook.
Facebook and YouTube Live.
Yep. And make sure that you tune in for the special presentation for Valentine's Day for Virginia's bicentennial with the lovely folks from the Poe Museum in Richmond and, of course, Poe Baltimore and Westminster Burial Grounds, right? And the Bronx
they're all
Heritage Society. Everybody,
they're all involved,
coming together, and they're going to be doing a graveside discussion. Is that right? I am now giving out the wrong information. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're misguiding our viewers here.
Oh no,
Virginia.
I'm gonna get.
We're gonna have to. Yeah, I think you might.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I know that they're going.
Levi.
Well, I'm not any better, but I do know they are going to be sharing Virginia Clemm Poe's Valentine to Edgar, her acrostic Valentine poem.
Yes.
And I'm sure they'll have their own rendition of it, but tonight our viewers are going to, and listeners are going to be treated by a rendition by our very own Virginia Clemm Poe. So
hopefully I will do it as much justice. But Levi, before I do that, do you want to tell listeners who may not have physically seen the poem exactly the neat thing about this poem?
Yeah, I can definitely share that. So if you haven't seen the poem physically, you can keep an ear out too for the first letter of every line, because it's an acrostic poem. So going down, you will see Edgar Allan Poe spelled out, in a column. And this is the only piece of handwriting we have really from Virginia. This is the only thing that we really have from her to Poe.
Sadly.
Sadly. So this is a rarity. This is something very, very special that Poe people are truly enamored with, to have something from Virginia, because there's so little.
Yeah.
And this was written on their last Valentine's Day together, February 14th, 1846, because she died the following January, 1847. So this was their last Valentine's Day. So and the poem is I know. Well, keep that in mind as you're I
as I'm
know,
doing
right?
this.
It's a poignant poem, and it's
It is.
just it's such a tribute, and yeah, I think this is a real treat for the listeners. So
Give me a moment while I
take it away.
pull into my
Right.
my bag of tricks and pull out my old forensics hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did that. Didn't do the poetry. I did dramatic interpretations of stories.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well,
that was always fun.
the drama is here in this one. I mean, it tells a story, so
Oh, it really
this
is.
is right up your alley. Yeah.
It very much is. Alrighty. So here we go. This is Virginia's Valentine to her beloved husband, Edgar. Ever with thee I wish to roam. Dearest, my life is thine. Give me a cottage for my home and a rich old cypress vine. Remove from the world with its sin and its care and the tattling of many tongues. Love alone shall guide us when we are there. Love shall heal my weakened lungs. And oh, the tranquil hours we'll spend, never wishing that others may see. Perfect ease that we'll enjoy without thinking to lend ourselves to the world and its glee. Ever peaceful and blissful will be.
Well done.
Thank
Brava,
you.
brava.
Thank you.
Yeah, that poem is.
I hope I did pass me justice.
You did. You
Well,
very much did.
Thank you. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot to recite a poem, I think, because, you know, the writer obviously had their own sentiment behind it, but when you're reciting it, you kind of have to dig. You have to find that emotion and translate it, you know, in the recital of the poem. And but luckily, I think that one, you know, you don't have to do a lot of work there to dig because the sentiment is there.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, whew, like, you know, she's like a little poetess, really. I mean, I wonder.
If anyone out there has stuff that matches that handwriting, oh dear goodness me, oh my, please bring it.
Make it known.
Because I that is one thing I have always wondered about her is that, you know, I'm trying to remember when the first time it was that I ever read that poem. I might have been in high school, maybe. I had a couple of English teachers who were really fascinated by me because I was into things that most of the kids were just, didn't care about.
Some of the,
and they knew how much I was, you know, attached to Edgar and how I'd always get very excited anytime we covered that. And of course, you know, anytime we did Shakespeare, I was the only one that was like, and this line means this, you know, and everybody else was like,
right. Kind of the kid that's the oversharer, the one that's like raising their hand too much, and the teacher's like almost annoyed because you're stepping on their toes a little bit. Yeah. I was kind of like that during my Poe unit in high school, you know. The teachers were kind of like, does anybody other than Levi want to answer this question about Poe?
It was I heard quite a bit in English lit for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that was not good. But yeah, so I mean, I think I was probably my sophomore year, maybe in high school when I first read that poem, and I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, tell me there's more.
Right,
and,
I know.
You know, and it was like there was nothing. And that sunk my heart. So it always has made me wonder, was there something out there? Was there other bits out there that we just unfortunately never got to see or never got to know?
Right.
So Valentine's, we're going to touch on this briefly because at the end of the month, our next Minisode bonus episode, we're going to be covering another Valentine
Yes.
that was written, and that's going to be all Levi, with the exception of me discussing about Valentine's practices of the Victorian era, et cetera, et cetera. But, spoilers. Not all Valentines were pleasant. And of course, within this Valentine that Virginia wrote to Edgar, and there is one line which Levi always, we've been talking about this. Go ahead.
Yes, the tattling of many tongues, right?
Yes.
It almost seems out of place a little bit, such a touching poem, and then
that line, and you're like,
removed from the world, with its sin, and and the tattling of many tongues, and then it kind of leaves you like, oh, okay, there was a little jab there about something. What could that have been, right? So it kind of leaves the reader wondering. Well,
it does.
Not to go into too much, detail, because
about
it could be a long, but there was this woman, Elizabeth Elliot, who had a thing for Poe, and apparently had sent him some, romantic-ish letters at some point, and Poe kind of scoffed at the letters, as well as Frances Osgood and Virginia, and apparently Elizabeth Elliot caught them all kind of laughing at her letter that she had sent to Poe, and she just, she went ballistic. I mean, she stormed out of there. She convinced Frances Osgood to demand all her letters back from Poe.
She was not pleased.
No, I mean, she was embarrassed, which is, understandable.
Understandable.
But she didn't handle it well, and it was a mess. But this whole scandal kind of shunned Poe out of literary circles after this. He wasn't really, because Elizabeth Elliot, Frances Osgood, they were all part of these, soirees and this whole literary scene. So they were able to kind of shun Poe out. But after, the whole thing escalated from there. Elizabeth Elliot had her older brother, who was a military man, threaten Poe, and then Poe thought he was going to have to challenge him to a duel, so he asked to borrow a pistol from his friend Thomas Dunn English, in which that started a fight between Poe and English, and they had a fist fight where Poe's face was all cut up because English was wearing rings but Poe claimed that he gave English a pounding, whooping, however he said it, a beating that he won't soon forget. So apparently it was a fair fight, but Poe was pretty roughed up. But it just turned into craziness. And Margaret Fuller and Frances Osgood went to Poe and Virginia's house to demand these letters back. And then when I think of Margaret Fuller and the impact she had in literature and for the whole feminist movement and everything, I'm like, wow, she kind of went to Poe's porch and demanded he returned letters. And it's cool. It's all these celebrities were all intermingled, But that was what Virginia was referring to is the tattling of many tongues, because Elizabeth Elliot, started rumors and just started kind of dragging Poe through the mud, and just kind of to cover herself, I guess, in a way. She didn't want to seem like she was the one making advances on Poe in these romantic letters. She wanted to make Poe kind of look like the scoundrel, or the So and Virginia, on her deathbed, said that Elizabeth Elliot brought her to her grave, essentially. Elizabeth Elliot kind of hastened her death, because of all the crap she stirred up towards the end there. So that line is very, it's a little poisonous, that line. It's it's the tattling of many tongues, and it's but it tells the story of Poe and Virginia's last little last little bit of life together. This is all what was happening. It was between those 1845 and 1847. I mean, that's when all of this was happening. So I love it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And it would, I think it could have been handled a little bit more easily.
Oh yeah, I mean,
if she had just sent what would have been referred to in that time as a poisonous Valentine, or as known overseas in England as a cartoon or mocking Valentine. And people are like, wait, what? What is that? And believe it or not, of course, there were what we now call Vinegar Valentines. And that's where that little line comes in, because there's just a little salt there. And that's how
definitely a little salty.
talking about this, because those were definitely something that were sent and given in the 1800s. In a couple of weeks, we'll be talking more about how it really is the Victorians' fault that Valentine's Day is the way that it is now.
Yep.
And so basically, a very long story short, the sending of Valentines, as we had discussed before in last week's episode about letters and correspondence being sent to and from people that, were interested in one another, Valentine's was no exception. And in England, there were all manners of, Valentines that could be sent to, anyone you desired to. And there were not just sweet, kind ones, but there were also some that weren't so kind. And you could send them making fun of people who were drunkards, or trollops, or people that you just genuinely, for whatever reason, just did not like. There were even ones that made fun of women because they may not have been as physically appealing as someone else. A lot of times these Valentines, they were very, these Valentines were designed to kind of keep your enemies at bay, and to, I don't even want to use the phrase "let them down easy," but to discourage.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like it was that easy. No. It sounded kind of harsh.
Very harsh. And I will read you one here in a moment. But they were also to discourage unwanted suitors. So more towards the end of the 1800s here in the US, we really saw them kind of going and attacking more at women who were part of the suffragette movement. Some of them got very political, and of course very not so kind to the females. We'll put it that way. Yeah. But you could send a poisonous Valentine to whomever you chose. So one such Valentine did read out, "To my Valentine, 'tis a lemon that I hand you, and bid you now skidoo. Because I love another, there is no chance for you." So, and of course, the image.
Perfect. I actually love that.
Is that a giant lemon?
Just skidoo. So... Get out of here. We don't want you.
No. Bye-bye. So, I mean, that was one of the, I think, nicer,
kinder
but
ones?
fun. Yeah, one of the kinder ones.
I mean,
because they could be very, very mean. There were even reports of Vinegar Valentines that came in the form of dead rodents that had ribbons attached to them.
All right.
I would only accept that Valentine if it came from my cat.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's like a cat's Valentine to their master.
And that wouldn't be a vinegar. That would be one of love.
From a cat, no, yes. Not from a human, though. We know better.
But of course, to receive something like that, some post carriers were like, "Oh, no, I'm not delivering this." And as a matter of fact, by 1781, at least in England, I can tell you that in London, that particular Valentine's, the postmasters had carried just over 1 million Valentines that season alone.
Wow.
And more than half were Vinegar Valentines. And they feel that the historians have said that the number was probably larger because the postmasters could decide whether or not they wanted to actually deliver these Valentines to folks, because some were just deemed too vulgar or too
Wow. They could use
nasty.
their own discretion, I guess, huh?
They could. So there were quite a few that were never delivered. And I think some of them might even have been those rodents with ribbons, which is kind of a scary thing.
Right.
And of course, you know, the sending of Valentines here in the US, while it was something that did happen even prior to the 1860s, it really didn't become a heavily done thing until around the mid 1860s. Whereas in England, it was, you know, a much more, you know, in the 1840s, it was something that was, of course, already in full swing. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that there was postal reform. And so you could send a letter to anyone for a penny. Now, of course, here in the US, they had cash on delivery. So if you sent a letter to someone, you could write COD on it, and they would have to pay to receive their letter.
Okay.
So a lot of these Vinegar Valentines that were being sent, the recipient had to pay for. Now, granted, it was only a penny, which
insult
in
to
our
injury.
yes, very much insult to injury. So even though in our day a penny is like whatever, you know, it was kind
that
of
was
a
cost.
Rude is what it was. I have to pay for this. You're insulting me, and I have to
pay for the insult. I just don't get it for free.
Insult.
Like, and you know,
it's terrible.
Wow.
So, I mean, while the cynic in me does appreciate the idea of, you know, a poisonous Valentine, I have a few folks I wouldn't actually send them, but you know,
But it's fun to think about, right? Like, what would I say? Right? I mean,
it's fun to think about, but in all honesty, when this practice was something that, I mean, nowadays, of course, we have trolls on the internet, so you know, people can
there you go.
instantly put anything on one of your photos, a blog post, you know.
A podcast comment.
Right. You know, and could insult us from now until the cows come home.
Right.
But back then, and I guess what happened because of some of these Vinegar Valentines, poisonous Valentines, mocking Valentines, you know, cartoon Valentines, there were, oh my goodness, to be very honest, there were fights that could happen. There were, oh my goodness, fights. I mean, people just getting beaten, people being harassed because of these Valentines. And there were even accounts of people who either attempted or did commit suicide because of these Valentines, because it, you know, for them, it hurt them that much, or it angered them that much that they went after their attacker. And actually, something I read that came from an 1885 account in the Pall Mall Gazette in the UK did talk about how a man shot his estranged wife after receiving a said poisonous Valentine from her. So, it's things like that you're like, ooh, it's like, while I say
That
I would
escalated
send
quickly.
quite a few, exactly. It's like, well, I would send these, I wouldn't send these because,
Yeah.
it's not worth it, but things like that did happen,
Yeah, it's almost like the Victorian form of trolling in a way.
It
Like,
really was.
essentially,
I mean,
that's interesting.
so yes, so for I guess I could dedicate this particular little bonus mini episode to those of you out there who share the same sentiment that I do, that if you love someone, celebrate them every day, not just one day a year.
And just for an added bonus, in the fun of Vinegar Valentines, everyone comment on this particular episode and tell us how we suck. We would really appreciate that.
How you really don't like Poe.
Yeah, right. Like, tell us
Or
what we're doing wrong. Like,
yeah, you can't stand the color black. You don't like ravens.
right. I can't even go into all the things I've heard about Poe that people don't like, because it'll probably just.
That's a whole other that's a whole other set of episodes that we're going to be
Yeah,
doing later
right.
on.
If we get into that, I'm going to have to really start trying to censor my words, and I don't want to have to, because made that mistake last time. So yeah. Tonight I'm just trying to.
Hey, that's our Vinegar Valentine from Spotify.
There you go. Yeah. So we're gonna keep. I'm not talking about Ermengarde ever again. That's it. Her name is removed from my mouth.
Oh, can't believe we got that. Hey, we're saucy around here.
I mean, we're all adults here, people. Come on.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed our little bonus mini episode.
Yes.
Of course, find us on Facebook, Oblong Box, and Beyond the Oblong Box. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong. Our YouTube channel, of course, Beyond the Oblong Box podcast. You can find us on all of our major platforms. Our email address, Levi?
Yes. BTOB1847 at gmail.com. I always got to remember if I'm abbreviating that right. BTOB.
Yeah.
Okay, 1847 at Gmail.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we can keep imploring you guys to send questions, or
we've gotten a few
comments. A few. Definitely. I think we'll have to start tackling some of those. So in a future episode, and just reach out if you feel like giving us some good feedback, bad feedback, whatever it may be. And we just love to hear from you. Hopefully we've made it convenient enough for you to listen to us or watch us.
Yes.
In any shape or form.
And then we will be back, of course, next Sunday for one of our longer episodes. And yes, we are going to be a little mushy next episode. So hopefully we can make it through that episode.
Honestly, I thought this episode was going to be kind of mushy, but we did pretty good. I mean, that Valentine from Virginia is very, very touching.
It's very touching.
But,
and then it's just that one spot, and you're like...
Yeah, the little jab. But hey, it was very appropriate for the situation. So, so to that, we can cheers. Oh,
Sancha.
There's Poe there.
Yes, Poe is there.
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah. Bye-bye.